she'll be fine. For most of my life, I learned how to disappear in plain sight, how to shrink myself just enough to be tolerated, just enough to be liked, and just enough to be told over and over again that I would be fine. I didn't notice when it started, this quiet agreement that my feelings were optional, that my discomfort could be absorbed without consequence, that I would always be the one to bend, and that no one would think twice about it. She'll be fine. That phrase followed me for years, a quiet dismissal disguised as reassurance. For most of my life, I gave respect before I understood its value. I handed it out freely to people who didn't notice, to people who didn't return it. I learned early that being liked meant being small, so I became easy, agreeable, uncomplicated, and eventually invisible. At some point, there's no clean moment for it, I realized something simple. If I don't give myself love and respect first, no one else will. I still replay certain moments, not because I don't understand them, but because I do. In my head, I say exactly what I didn't say then, clear, controlled, precise. You don't understand what this feels like. Just listen. I'm not being dramatic. Don't mock me. In those versions, I am calm, certain, unshaken. But even there, I notice something. I am still watching them, still measuring their reaction. Even in my imagination, I am not the center of my own story. I was 13, maybe 14, a school dance, dim lights, loud music. I said something careless about a girl named Lisa. I don't remember what, only that it reached her. She walked straight up to me, in front of everyone. No raised voice, no insults, just clarity. And I said nothing. I stood there, stunned into silence. I was embarrassed, but more than that, I noticed. She had something I didn't. Not confidence exactly, permission. The permission to take up space with her voice. That moment stayed with me, not because I failed to speak, but because I recognized what it looked like when someone did. Later that year, I fell asleep with the radio on. I always needed noise. Silence felt too big. Sometime in the night, my sister unplugged it. I heard her say, "Don't worry, she'll be fine." There it was again. I woke up angry. This time, I decided I would say something. At breakfast, I didn't ease into it. I was using that. You had no right. I slammed the cereal box on the counter. It burst open. Cereal everywhere. They laughed. And I laughed too. Not because it was funny, because I didn't know what else to do. The moment collapsed. Later, upstairs, the house was quiet. Maybe something landed, but I didn't feel heard. I felt exposed. Still, something had shifted. My voice wasn't controlled. It wasn't impressive. But it existed. And that was new. My first job out of college was at a TV station. I worked hard, earned a title, studio coordinator. The title didn't carry much weight. When I sent out a request about studio organization, an audio engineer responded with one word. Wah. All caps. A baby crying. I stared at the screen, not hurt, not exactly, just paused. Right before we went on air, he opened the door and said, "I didn't write that." No explanation, no apology, just enough to disrupt, not enough to resolve. I let it go. But this time, something was different. I didn't internalize it. It wasn't about me. It was about what he chose to do. And what I chose not to carry. By the time I got to Kenya, I had started to recognize the pattern, not just in others, but in myself. I was serving in the Peace Corps when, on a group safari, the country director said to me, "I'm surprised you're handling this so well." It was framed as a compliment. It didn't land that way. Why wouldn't I be? He had never asked about my life in the village, about the bucket baths, the hand-washed clothes, the crowded buses where personal space didn't exist. He had no context, only assumption. And this time, I didn't absorb it. I recognized it, not as truth, as projection. I had been underestimated, again. But this time, it didn't define me. I knew what I could handle. I had evidence, and I didn't need his acknowledgement to confirm it. By then, I understood the pattern. But understanding something and changing it are not the same. That came later, in the middle of a family dispute. The kind that isn't really about what it claims to be about. The kind that exposes everything underneath. For the first time, I didn't smooth it over. I didn't adjust. I didn't make it easier for everyone else. I challenged it. Not loudly, not perfectly, but directly. And that was enough. Because in a system that depends on your compliance, even a small refusal reads like defiance. I could feel it immediately. The resistance, the shift in tone, the expectation that I would return to who I had always been. I didn't. Instead, I did something unfamiliar. I stepped away, not out of anger, not to punish, but because I understood something I hadn't fully allowed myself to see before. I could not continue to love people who required me to abandon myself. So I chose something else. Space, distance, silence, but this time on my own terms. Not the silence of being overlooked, the silence of stepping back. And in that space, something shifted. Not all at once, not cleanly, but enough. Enough to understand that love, if it costs you yourself, is not something you are obligated to keep offering. Change didn't happen all at once. It accumulated. But now it had direction. The less I focused on how I was being perceived, the more I started to see myself clearly. The more I spoke, even imperfectly, the less I needed the response to validate it. Silence took on a different meaning. Not weakness, not avoidance, choice. Not every moment deserves a reaction, but every boundary deserves recognition. I no longer feel responsible for how others interpret me. I can listen without absorbing. I can care without conceding. I can walk away without explaining. She'll be fine. Maybe that was always true, just not in the way they meant it.